The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break!
With Nick Eatman, David Hellman, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Monday, November 8th, 2021, Season 17, Episode number 56. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, and man, do we have a lot to talk about today. Cowboys take their first and really only beatdown of the season yesterday at the hands of the lowly Denver Broncos, or at least lowly as of what we thought of them on Friday. Very, very different team showed up on Sunday. They beat the Cowboys 30-16. We're going to tell you what our thoughts were on that game. Before we get to that, real quick, Nick, give me a 56.
56. How about Eugene the Hitting Machine Lockhart?
There we go. That's a good one.
Could have used the hitting machine yesterday.
Yeah, could have definitely used that.
Could have used a little hitting machine.
56.
Yeah, that was a rough game, man. I don't think that any of us, I know none of us expected what we saw yesterday. Even if in somewhere in your wild imagination you could have imagined the Cowboys were going to lose that game, nobody thought it would be a beatdown like that. Let's start first, though. I want to get a big picture storyline from each of you guys of what was yesterday. Dave, I see that look on your face. Let's start with you. What was your big picture story you take from that game?
Big picture from yesterday or big picture? Because I got to tell you.
Big picture story from yesterday.
Okay, from yesterday. Well, I think yesterday was just a classic example of what we mean when we say this is the NFL. Like, that's why we throw that out there all the time. And people have been tweeting me for the last 18 hours like, oh, it was a trap game. They were looking ahead. No, it's the NFL. And the gap between the good and the mediocre and the bad is shockingly small. And if you don't come with it, you're going to get your ass kicked. That's my big picture takeaway. And that's why, having had a chance to really think about it and look around the rest of the NFL, do you want to lose? No. Do you want to get embarrassed in your own house? No. But, like, I feel a lot better than I bet a lot of people do right now, because I'm just like, it's a weird league. For whatever reason, I don't think the Cowboys showed up thinking they needed to try yesterday, and they got a harsh reminder. And you pick up the pieces and move forward. Stuff happens during the course of a now 17-game season. And I feel, I'm sorry if I sound like a homer, I feel pretty confident that it's more of a blip than some sort of crazy indicator that this team's actually bad.
Amber.
I'm not worried. I wasn't even mad. I was like watching the game in just complete disbelief, you know, when you're like, what the heck is happening? But at the same time, I know that that's not them. Like, what happened yesterday is not really them, despite all the mistakes that they've made throughout the season. I truly believe that they're going to come back next week and play. And actually, dang it.
I thought we were going to fight like all day today. I'm shocked to hear this coming out of your mouth.
So I tweeted about this last night, and I was going to look it up, and I just completely forgot. And I know this is a different team, different coaches and everything, but you guys remember several years ago when they played in Denver, that they played pretty much
got their asses
the
kicked.
same exact way. It was embarrassing, and we didn't really know what the heck happened because every single player had a bad game that day. Do you guys remember how they came back and played the next few weeks?
Not off the top of my head, to be honest with you. They went 9-7 that year. I know that.
I wanted to look it up. But anyways, my point is I think it was just that exact game that you just don't really know what happened in all levels, coaching, the players, on defense, on offense, and I'm sure we'll get into the whole thing. But at the end of the day, I'm really not that concerned as of yet. I think that they can clean it up and come back and play better for another win.
Nick.
What?
Nick's body language, I'm curious.
No, I think you guys said it. They got outplayed, out-hit, out-blocked, out-tackled, out-coached, out-cheered. DenverBroncos.com, maybe they had a better day than us. I don't know. I'm just saying that everything was better.
Their stories were probably better. It's more fun
Probably
to
got a
write.
few more hits.
It's more fun to write about a dominant win than an ass kicking.
Yeah, but I think they just underestimated them the whole game, and I think it starts with McCarthy. I don't blast this guy like other people do. I give him the praise. I think coaches get praise when they win, and I think that I put it on them to start. I think going out the way they did and saying, I thought, and I said this on the radio this morning, I thought they played the game like you would play Madden. I'm gonna score here. I'm not kicking a field goal. I'm just gonna score.
Especially when you're playing your kid.
Yeah.
Playing somebody you just don't respect.
I didn't catch. Okay, we didn't get it. I'll get it the next time. We'll stop them and we'll get it the next time. And they just kind of underestimated them. And I didn't have a problem with the first fourth down. I had a problem with the second one. And even though they could have got it, but they didn't. I'm a little bit more concerned than you guys are, just because we'll see. We'll see what they are. But if you put that on tape, now I know what you've got. Now I know you can play like crap. And you can get blown out at home to an average team with no star power. So it's a little bit concerning. Your eyes are open. We'll see. We'll see what happens this week.
Yeah, you mentioned that those calls there at the beginning of the game. And I think that was actually a part of that thinking was a part of the reason why I think they got what they got. Is because to me that signified the fact that in both those situations, you got 4th and 1 at Denver 38, you got 4th and 2 at the Denver 20. Neither time did you try for a field goal. You just said we're going to go for it. And I kind of agree a little bit more with the 4th and 1 at the 38. That's a pretty long field goal. Give it a shot. 4th and 2 at the 20. That's where, and I didn't kill him. I'll be honest with you. I didn't kill him because I had the same mentality, which was I'm not scared of this team.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, I think the defense is going to stop them from scoring more points than their offense is going to be able to score. So take a shot, be aggressive. And I think that also is what bit them in the butt. I think they went into that game thinking we're just a better team. So we're going to try some things, and I think they started pressing as the game went on. I think that's why guys were dropping balls. I think that's why guys are, Dak is overthrowing guys that are open. I think it's because they felt like they were a better team, and at some point their betterness was just going to take over, right? And when it takes over, then we'll run away with this game. And I think it played out just the opposite because, as you said, Dave, this is the NFL. And anybody can beat you any given week.
I do agree with that, and I thought they pressed. That's such a great analogy. It reminded me of me trying to win the Heisman on NCAA football. It's like, well, I got to throw for 450 and 5 touchdowns if I'm going to stay in the race. And I thought Dak played that way. I thought everybody played that way. It was just like, I got to get these stats up. We got to remind people who we are, and you kind of lose sight of the big picture, which is winning the game. Having said that, I don't have an issue with the aggressive play calling, to be honest with you.
Well, you never do. Let's be honest. That's where you are. That's just where you are.
Right. But 55-yard field goal, I mean, we've been the first one.
I think we all agree with that.
Right, and then the second one, I mean, I can't believe, and who is a bigger Dak homer than yours truly? I can't believe we're killing the decision instead of the $40 million quarterback who biffed it to Cedric Wilson's ankles. Complete the pass. It wasn't tipped. Dak said it himself. Complete the easy pass to Cedric Wilson and keep the chains moving. The offense, even still with how I'm surprised and impressed we are with the way the defense is played, the offense is your ticket. That's why you're going to win games. That's why you're going to get where you want to go. Complete a very easy pass to Cedric Wilson, Dak Prescott. I don't have a problem with it at all. But it's a microcosm of everything. They didn't do anything right. You throw it at Cedric Wilson's ankles. Amari Cooper, I bet he saw that catch over the middle of the 3rd and 1 that he dropped. In his mind, as the ball's coming at him, he's like, I'm gonna house this. It's gonna be 19-7. Still got a chance.
We're in it, yeah.
Then it's on the ground. And that's just at every aspect of the team. They just couldn't do anything right all day.
And I also bet that this morning when he woke up, he was still seeing that ball not going into his hands and hitting the ground. Like, how did I drop that pass? Because that's not a pass that he typically
Somebody
will drop.
put out a graphic on Sunday night that was like, Amari Cooper's been targeted X amount of times this season. Sunday night after the Vikings game, I'm sorry. With the juggling catch and the game winner, they were like, he hasn't dropped a target this year. And what are the odds that he finally has a drop and it is as wide open and easy as it's going to be for as good of a player as he is.
Yep. You guys mentioned earlier, Nick, I think you mentioned that you give some of the blame to Mike McCarthy here, and he even said after the game, he said we got outcoached and we got outplayed. There was something though he said after that caught my attention, and Nick, I mentioned it to you last night. He said maybe I overcoached the penalties this week, and that jumped out at me because when you think about how the Cowboys played, they did seem to be they lost a little bit of that edge that we've seen them play with. And when he said maybe I overcoached penalties this week, it made me think, was this a situation where he all week was harping on them? Don't go to that edge. Don't go there. Like, you got to make sure you're not getting these dumb penalties. And because of that, maybe they were a little more tentative. Maybe they lost a little bit of that edge. What were your thoughts on that comment?
That's interesting that he would say that, and I don't know if it translates to that at all, but it felt like something. They weren't tackling those guys and those running backs. They're good backs, I guess, but I mean, they're not like Jim Brown, Walter Payton, which they made it out to be in that game. I mean, they didn't tackle. They didn't bring them to the ground. I thought they got beat on second down. I really did. I thought, because you get 10 tackles for a loss, that is insane amount of tackles for a loss. But how many times were it 2nd and 14 and then they'd get a run for 12 yards and now it's 3rd and 2 and then they would convert it. So I don't know if that was it or not, but I wouldn't worry about it for this game because that ain't happening in this game. I can promise you their defensive coordinator knows who they're playing this game, and their guys are going to play to their level of their defensive coordinator, and the aggressiveness will definitely be there for this game.
This is an entirely subjective way to look at it, and I don't like talking about fantasy football, but I have Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams on my team. They've been there, and injuries have forced me to play these guys. And all week I was like, those guys haven't done crap all year, and nobody knows that better than me. It was shocking to see the way that they broke contact. I mean, their yak must have been. I mean, they ran for 191, and 2/3 of it must have been yak. It felt like they were slipping a tackle every time they touched the ball.
Do you think? And I noticed this during the game. A lot of times where there ended up being broken tackles and guys kept getting more yards, it looked like the defenders were reaching for the ball, grabbing at the ball. Do you think that maybe they've kind of overcoached trying to get the turnover and not emphasize enough? The most important thing is get the guy down.
Mate, that's pressing. I said, the whole team. It's like, well, if we can strip this guy here, then the offense has a short field, and we can get back on track. We can make it 13-7, and all of a sudden, you're not focusing on getting the guy down, and he's got 12 yards when he should have had 3.
I just don't think. How do you blame that on overcoaching? I mean, how do you take such a step backwards when they've been playing the way that they have? It doesn't make sense to me. The one thing, and I get it, if you emphasize something so much, hey, be careful, look for this, do that, do this. Yes, but that's just such a drastic change. So I would have to think that it had to come down with them maybe feeling a little overconfident and thinking like you guys were talking about, which again, it's another thing. I'm like, okay, have they been feeling kind of cocky? Have they been feeling kind of... Has that even been the vibe?
I'm glad you brought that. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because it's really all I've been thinking about. And we don't have as good of a sense of the vibe of the team as we used to. We don't see them nearly as often as we would pre-COVID.
We're not in their locker room where you kind of hear those side conversations and see guys. Yeah,
and we're just and they bring 4 guys a day out here to talk to us in a very weird setting. Yeah. It's just not the same. And the big thing too is you're never going to get a guy to directly say we didn't take this team seriously. That's like a suicidal type of quote, right? That's just something that you're not going to get a guy to say. But if you parse through the quotes, there were a couple. Leighton Vander Esch, 6 different times he was like, I think we needed this. This is the type of thing that can help us in the long run. And then Dak was asked directly if you felt a little too high. Maybe you're a little too high on yourself. And it's a long quote. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But he said, with everything that went wrong in this game, I would say maybe. And then he goes further on and he says, When you win a game like we did last week on the road in a tough environment, everything going against you, I think sometimes you think you can just roll out there and get it done. And again, he goes on to say a lot more. And he's like, there was not a point up until the last 5-6 minutes of that game where we still didn't believe we could get it done. And why not? Minnesota, New England, 15 penalties, everything going against you. You still find a way to get it done. And he said, when it finally sinks in that it's not going to happen, you're reminded that this is the NFL. This is a really tough business. And again, you're not going to get a direct yes, we didn't try as hard as we could have. But I just think there was an edge lacking. I think they probably thought man, who's going to mess with us if we can go do that in Minnesota with Cooper Rush?
Yeah, this is a demoralizing game, and and we've felt it. I mean, we've seen it on the road. We've seen the Cowboys. I mean, I guarantee you the Chargers felt that way. When they walk into their home stadium and they feel that way, and the Vikings maybe last week too. I mean, that's the nature of the league. That's what happens. And then you give them a lot of reasons to get loud and cheer and stuff like that. So then you had that going against you, and I mean, as a special teams player, all you want to do is block a punt. I mean, that's all you want to do. That changes the game. Yeah. And you can't even do that right. I mean, you can't even block a punt right. That's when you know it's not your day. When you block a punt, you don't get the football. I mean, everything that, and I know you're probably going to talk about it, but everything that when you come out of halftime, this is a third quarter team. We got to get a stop. We got to get off the field. We got to and then they block a punt, and you still don't get the football. And the next thing you know, it's 19.
To try to make sense of that.
It doesn't make sense.
AG, you were watching the Fox. What channel was it on? Fox?
CBS.
You were watching the TV broadcast, right? Mm-hmm. Were the announcers hip to what was going on immediately?
No.
Okay, because that's
to be fair, I had the Spanish broadcast, but people did not really know what was going on.
We always talk about, you miss something by not having all of that information coming at you. You've kind of got to figure things out for yourself in the press box. Me and Nick were on the same page. It's 3 plays, kick their ass, block the punt. It's gonna be tight, but this is how it happens. And they go to commercial. The guy with the oven mittens down on the field with the neon orange oven mitt, you're like, okay, they're at commercial. The offense will be out. And then all of a sudden, the Denver offense is trotting out, and it's dawning on you wait, what's going on? And then the ref makes his announcement. It hit me like a ton of bricks when I realized that the offense wasn't going to have the ball back, because we had gotten no indication otherwise that was going to happen.
Yeah. It was huge, and you can argue all day long with it, and I mean, and I've already done that this morning, and it's a rule change that needs to be. I mean, it's a change in the rules, I think, that needs to happen. Mm-hmm. It's rare when this situation. My take to the whole thing is, if the result of the play does not result into a first down, then it should be the Cowboys' ball. That's the way I look at it. And maybe there's some nuances I don't know of, but if it's 4th and 12 and all this weird crap happens and they get 7 yards with the ball, then that's where the ball should be. You did not get a first down, and I don't understand it. I don't get it.
It kind of makes my brain hurt thinking about it, to be honest, because I can imagine why it exists. I can think of a scenario where a guy gets a finger on it and it goes past the line of scrimmage and some wonky stuff happens. I'm sure, the game can surprise you, right? The more you watch, the more new stuff you see. But yeah, I mean, that seems bogus.
But you know what I don't understand? Because in the same way, what I don't understand is why we haven't seen this play out more. Because we see times when a guy gets a fingertip on a punt, and I'm surprised that hasn't happened in a situation where the guy kind of, fair catches it, but he doesn't catch it. It just kind of bounces and it goes down. The other team goes down and downs the ball. That would be their ball. And I don't know that the guy back there that's going to catch the punt always knows that a fingertip one of his guys actually got a fingertip on it. I'm just surprised this has never happened before that I've seen it in football. In this kind of scenario where someone recovers just because the ball was partially tipped, or in this instance it was blocked, but it was even partially tipped.
Yeah.
It's kind of surprising me this hasn't come up to where I've seen that type of scenario.
It usually doesn't get hit right there at the line of scrimmage like that, And I talked to Nashawn right after the game, and he was, he said that he knew that he's standing at the line of scrimmage, and he's like, I know the rule.
Came at him fast.
Yeah. Well, and he's trying to make a play. I don't have any fault for him, and I can tell you more about that here at the break. That's interesting, but
yes.
No, it's fine.
He got the tea.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's fine. He did a good job. I applaud him.
Yeah.
For talking and saying what happened and giving his take on it and giving some quotes and all that. I applaud him for standing there and doing it.
It is. I mean, it's bizarre.
I don't know what you're implying.
Yeah, me neither. I can't wait to get to the break. But
y'all know.
Oh,
okay.
Y'all know.
I'm watching the video over again, and I mean, if he can corral that ball, he has at least an outside chance to score.
Yeah.
You can advance a block punt, can't you? Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah. He's got that.
It's just
Okay,
I mean,
this is what I
just an
hate
avalanche
about it.
of
This is what I hate
problems.
about it. Like, you know how big I am on stats. I'm a stat geek and all that. First time in the history of the NFL. I mean, this is a lot of the things have happened in NFL games. Malik Turner. God, I want to call him Malik Hooker. Malik Turner would have been the first player in the history of the NFL to catch 2 touchdowns and block a punt in the game. But the NFL rules, the stats are not calling it a blocked punt. They just call it a 2-yard punt and a muff by Nashawn Wright. I just watched it again. It hits him in the shoulder pad. Mm-hmm. That's how different 3 or 4 inches can be. If he gets his hands over here and blocks it, it goes backwards, they recover it maybe, safety, whatever. A safety probably would have been better than a touchdown.
Yeah, actually. Yeah.
Honestly, just because it's the ball.
It's kind of surprised me somebody like Dwayne Harris wouldn't have done that at some point.
That goes back to how surprising all of this was, because I remember you talking about that. You were like, "Oh, like a safety could have done this," and then you score, and then you get the ball back, and you have a chance to get 9.
Momentum a little bit, yeah.
And then the refs are like, "Denver's keeping the ball." Like when that never happened. I'm like, God,
19-0 before
just the worst afternoon ever.
Yeah, and then there was times in the press box that long catch that Trayvon Diggs knocked it out. And Trayvon Diggs, we need to talk about him.
We're gonna get to him.
He's streaking in the wrong direction
we're gonna
here.
get to him.
But that play that then they went and reviewed it, they challenged it, and we're all said the same thing. Like, it doesn't seem like it would be a catch and a fumble. But today, yeah, probably
every fiber of me thought that they were going to give that the contested catch that
the
Trayvon
way the day
poked
was
out
going too, it was just kind of like, that just seems like it fits.
It just felt like you were caught in an avalanche.
Was the food good in the press box?
It was.
It was good.
It was
Okay,
remarkably
so there
good
was
as
some
usual.
good. Weather was nice.
Yeah, very nice.
Gorgeous.
Everybody got home okay.
Yeah, everything other than the game itself was really good. All right, we're gonna take
Let's
our first
go
break.
Broncos, like going throughout the stadium. That was fun.
I think they're still out there chanting. We're going to take our first break. When we come back, I do want to dive in a little bit more to this offense and talk about specifically what was happening at left tackle there. That was an interesting day for Mr. Terrence Steele. We'll talk about that when we come right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Before there was a draft, you could size up a cowboy by 3 simple factors: the crease in his hat, the bend of his brim, and his unbending attitude. A man Stetson didn't just protect him from what life threw at him, it projected a rugged, unstoppable spirit. Stetson hats are still American-made with pride right here in Texas. They're still the unofficial crown of all self-respecting cowboys, and Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find a retailer nearest you at stetson.com/cowboys.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way. Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
Honey, big news.
Gary, are you okay?
Oh, I'm not Gary anymore. I'm Jackie Flash.
What?
See, I want the latest smartphone, but the best deals are only for new customers. So, to get a new customer deal, I changed my name to Jackie Flash.
Okay, but the best smartphone deals at AT&T are for everyone, new and existing customers.
That's huge. Then guess who's getting a deal?
Is it Jackie Flash?
Jackie Flash.
It's not complicated. At AT&T, our best smartphone deals are for everyone. Restrictions apply. Visit att.com for details.
Back to the break.
Hey guys, give the gift of the Cowboys this season with the Dallas Cowboys United membership presented by Globe Life. It's the ultimate fan experience for the ultimate Cowboys fan. Membership start at just $20 and include an exclusive fan pack and VIP member experiences. 'Tis the season. Visit DallasCowboys.com/United to get yours today.
Welcome back. Second segment of the break live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Thank you for having that read ready, Nick. You're on it today. Good. Let's jump back in, and I want to talk specifically.
I mean,
no, true.
Stop.
I'm not violent.
Okay,
Really?
hold on.
Really?
Hold on.
Stop.
Last night in the press box, after you had left, because it was, it was
really.
Wow.
No, he
really
shot. No, you leave like about an hour and a half afterwards.
Yeah, about an hour and a half. I'm not writing stories.
I don't blame you
I'll
for
say
that.
about an hour and a
I'm
half.
actually surprised you stayed that long, honestly.
Honestly, I stay that long because of traffic.
Yeah. I don't, okay. Anyways, we're talking about something, and the fraternity comes out. Remember, and somebody had said something about, I'm going to throw up the hooks, and I said, no, don't do that. Me and Dave can attest to that. Like you could get
Derek
slapped
does
by
not
Derek.
appreciate that.
That's a little different. That doesn't have anything to do with
He
regular
will
violence.
flick you.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
No,
I've seen him, Ric Flair, chop him in the chest.
It's true.
Oh, that he caught me by surprise. I wasn't expecting it. It was just kind of out of the blue.
That was actually my fault because he did the hooks the night before. I took the picture of it, and then I showed you, and then you hit him, and you're like, what was that for? And he was like, fair. Dave was like, yeah.
It's true.
You did that to me once on my arm, and it hurt.
I did what?
This thing?
That's a different story.
Pluck?
That's
Like
completely.
pluck you?
I don't know what it's called.
Can we get back on the road?
What are we doing here?
Like
talking
just
about the Cowboys
devastated
getting thumped.
Cowboy
They were
fans
on the
trying to
road
make
Sunday.
sense of this loss. Well, they were. Well,
Define orange.
okay. I mean, we don't need to do this, but I mean that's just the nature of this
know.
thing.
And by the
right?
way,
Like,
it's going to happen again in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. What is this?
What?
3 weeks. Whenever the Raiders come here,
Yeah.
I guarantee you there is going to be a lot of black and silver in the building.
Yeah.
Again, because you're talking about as you guys always talk about when you're playing the AFC, you're playing a division. You haven't played them at your house in 8 years, which means their fans who are in town are going to say that's a destination game. That's an opportunity for me to go to a game.
It's a combination.
At AT&T
It's
Stadium.
a combination of things too. It's not you got to have. I mean, I don't think the New York Jets are bringing a ton of fans. It's a fan base, very loyal fan base, and people say that that they travel well. I don't think so. I think there's a ton of Denver Bronco fans in the area.
Although I will say this, I had to travel Sunday coming back into town.
From
Houston. When I was getting back, I was taking the shuttle to my car. And the guy that was driving the shuttle, he saw that I was that I had on I already put on my credential, and he was like, "You going to game day?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Man, I've seen a ton of people coming from Denver, and that was early in the morning. I took a 7:00 flight."
They're ready.
He was like, "I've seen a lot of people flying in this weekend from Denver that were coming in for the game," and I was like, "Wow, that's pretty interesting." I thought it was like you, like a lot of people just live here, but maybe they do travel well.
I love that. Well, also, you got to think about geography, too. I don't know why we need to get into the weeds on this. No, I think this type of stuff fascinates me, though. Yeah. Look at a map. Denver is the only NFL city anywhere near like 6 different states.
Yeah.
So, like, if you live in Colorado, New Mexico, Wyoming, Nevada, the western part of like Kansas, Nebraska, like Idaho, Montana, like there's just this huge geographic reason where it probably makes sense to be a Broncos fan. They've been good.
By the way, they do have a large following. When you look just around the league at who has what following on digital, they've got a large following.
Dallas is a super easy city to get to. It is a huge transplant city, so I'm sure there are a lot of people living here. But even if you don't, it costs like $200 to fly here on Southwest, and it's AT&T Stadium. People want to see it. It's a popular place to go. Oh, and by the way, they kicked the crap out of the Cowboys. Like, if the Cowboys had done what we thought they were going to do, all that orange would have been gone by the end of the third, and nobody would care. I mean, it turnabout's fair play, right? Like, it's cool when the Cowboys take over U.S. Bank. Yeah. Well, sometimes that's going to happen when you play big fan bases
and
like
you've
that.
Got these newer stadiums, just like for Cowboys fans that may be in the Minnesota area or close to it, it's an opportunity to go see a new stadium. So you also draw people out to go see their team in that stadium.
There's a financial component, too. It's really expensive to go to NFL games. If you hold tickets to the Cowboys and you think like, man, I can make a lot of my money back selling 2 or 3 of these, let me sell some Broncos tickets and get my costs back.
I have a feeling it's not going to be that bad for the Raiders.
You don't?
No,
maybe not.
We've seen it. I mean, this is weird. This will be their 3rd Thanksgiving Day game at this stadium. That's rare. I mean,
I didn't know that.
Well, something weird happened. I don't know why with the Chiefs and the Raiders back in 2009 and 2013.
Yeah, they played.
They didn't.
They did
flip
back to back. Yeah, they didn't flip.
They didn't flip. We played the Chiefs in 2009 and in 2013 on the road, and played the Raiders at 9 and 2013. On both of them were Thanksgiving Day games. So we'll see.
Can I just say this?
Okay, go ahead.
I think it's stupid. And sorry to put it that way, but and I get it, fan noise and all that, but at the end of the day, like, it bothers me when people use that, there was a ton of fans of the opposing team or whatever taking over and all that. At the end of the day, it's not the fans' fault. Like, and I get it, it does mess with how you hear things and all that, but when you're focused on there or whatever, you're trained to do this kind of stuff, you know? I haven't been able to go to a practice, but we've seen it year after year how they practice and they make it as loud as possible.
You can hear the noise through the windows. You don't even have to look outside. You can just hear it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just like play better.
Yeah.
You should
no, absolutely. And I don't think any of this is an excuse. It's more just kind of an anecdotal funny thing that with that many fans.
I think it's more than that, but that's fine. I do think it plays psychologically with them as well. It's like being booed at home, you know, because then it represents of why this is happening. We're here at home in this place, and we're getting you know, this crowd is overshadowing our crowd.
It's kind of like you get home from a bad day and your family's heckling you because you had a bad day.
We're
like,
playing like crap,
that, right?
Yeah, like you're playing. It represents that you're playing.
But if you're
poorly.
really focused, you don't listen to that stuff. I've played soccer. I've been on fields. I've done performances, and it's weird what your brain does and stuff. But if you're really focused, you don't hear anything.
Well, it is. Tony Pollard, Amari Cooper, C.D. Lamb, Dalton Schultz. I mean, they all showed that they weren't focused at times, and then Dak had. I mean, they weren't focused.
And the difference
So
is
I think
also
you're right.
football is a little different because you have these starts and stops, right? If you're on the offense while you're on the field, you're probably right. You're not noticing the crowd because you're into the game. When you go sit down on the sideline and you're sitting there, you're noticing everything, and it's probably even more apparent to you. Like, are they saying let's go Broncos? Like, what are we doing
talk
here?
about something good?
Play a better game, and you won't. No one will care.
Are we about to talk about the left tackle?
I was about to say we can talk about something good, but I don't think we're going to do it if we're going to talk about the left tackle because that was a bad day.
What could we talk about that pertains to the Cowboys that would be good right now?
They drafted the right guy. They did.
Okay.
This guy.
He played well.
Here's the part I think I don't want to overstate how he played because I do think some of the stuff that I saw in the run game particularly, he wasn't great against the run yesterday. And by the way, there were some moments where there were lots of people having issues stopping the run, and he was a part of that. So I don't want to overstate it like he had a phenomenal day. He did obviously show up when it came to making tackles for loss. He had the sacks, the 2.5 sacks. So yes, give him the credit for that, but I don't think he had just this stellar day. This was not...
To be fair to Nicholas, all I said was, did anything good happen?
Good, okay.
And,
Mom?
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
But at the same time, I mean, how can you be phenomenal or have a stellar day when everybody else around you is playing like crap, you know? He can pull the weight, but at the same time, I think that it does affect you. Like, and we've talked about it, when everybody else's energy is up high and playing well, it's contagious. So I think that he did the best. I'm not gonna say the best, but you know, out of everything that happened, he was the best one out there.
And that is going to happen. You know, when your defensive tackles are a little bit suspect at times. Any linebacker. I mean, Ray Lewis probably, if guard and center got to that next level and got to him, he probably didn't win all of them. And a lot of that was on him. You got to be able to fight that off. But I love the way he's playing, and I think they've got something there now. I think they've figured it out. He's not a pass rusher. He's a linebacker that can rush the passer. I don't think he's an outside rusher or whatever. I don't think they would play him like this.
This is exactly what I want him to be.
Yeah.
A linebacker who can cover sideline to sideline, isn't a total liability in the passing game, and can get you 1 to 3 sacks in a given game.
8 or 9 tackles for loss in a season is pretty good for a linebacker. He's had 7 in 2 games since they took the green dot off of him and let him go play and not call the plays. He's had 4 last week and 3 this game. Tackles for loss, he's living back there. And that's not even counting the sacks.
And PFF, which I know it's PFF, but they credit him with 24 pressures on the season, which is most among rookies, tied with a guy who plays defensive end.
I think he's going to win Rookie of the Year.
I do too. I don't think it's even in question. I mean, I think, and don't get me wrong, I think he's having a phenomenal season, especially when you put it in the context that he's a rookie. I think the amount of impact that he's having on this team is extremely special for an off-ball linebacker. Like, you don't see that. Like, this is, and I don't want to say he's Ray Lewis, but that's the kind of thing you saw from a guy like that, where he has such an impact that most middle linebackers just really don't have in a lot of different facets of how they play defense. He's having that kind of impact. I get that. But I think yesterday, and it goes back to what Dave was saying, I don't know that I can point out a single person that I thought had a really stellar day. And in a game like that, it's hard to have a stellar day across the board because the team is performing so poorly, and NFL football is a team sport.
Malik Turner, bless you.
Yeah, right.
Malik Turner. I mean, blocked a punt, and then he had 2 touchdowns there. And he didn't like when we were talking to him. I tried to say the word garbage time, and he kind of cut me off in the middle of the word and said, like, it wasn't garbage time for us. And I was like, I'm sorry. I guess, as you're
and it never is when you're the player on the field.
Yeah,
right?
it's not. That's what he's been waiting for. And he did a nice job. And then they made it respectable, I guess, but everyone knows that was a 30-0.
Yeah, it won't. When you go back and look at this season in years to come, if you happen to look at the scores, you won't look at that game and say it was as bad as it actually was. But we all know that was a blowout. They got destroyed.
I bristle and I've fought with people for years about whether or not Dak puts up stats in garbage time. Leading a team back, Atlanta, Cleveland last year, starting the comeback when the third quarter starts and battling all through the second half, that's not the same. This was garbage time. Yeah. This was the last 2 possessions of the game. The Broncos are trying to get the hell out of there. He had 120 of his 230 yards on the last 2 drives.
Fantasy-wise, he ended up with
24.
Oh, he saved my points. He saved my day.
Yeah,
24 he saved points. He wound up having a great fantasy day.
He had single digits,
which is why fantasy football is stupid, by the way.
Right, that's exactly right. I think they ought to have a stat. They ought to have a number for quarterbacks. You either get some points or you lose some points if you win or lose. I think that matters too. But anyway, let's talk about the tackle. Terrence Steele, man, it's for the first time this year because we really haven't had to talk about him negatively this season. He didn't have a great game. There were lots of moments where he was getting beat and just wasn't able to hold up at the point of attack. That all being said, my question for you guys is, do you think it was a bad decision for them to push him to left tackle rather than keep him on right? And then, obviously they put Collins back at the right tackle position, which is where he always was.
This would be a great opportunity to thump my chest and say, told you so, because that's what I wanted. I wanted Steele to stay at right and Nsekhe and Collins to just fight it out at practice and see who looked better by the end of the week. To a degree, it is hindsight, though, because, again, Lyle Collins hasn't played left tackle since he was in college, 2014. He's been in the NFL for 7 years. He's never done it, not even in practice or training camp. So maybe muscle memory is a degree of that. Maybe he's so used to playing it that he would have stepped in and been fine and played a lot better. I can't say that for sure, and I can't say for sure that he wouldn't have struggled either. But for some reason, I just trust Lyle to do that more than I trust a young guy who hasn't played as many games, who's not as used to the strength and speed of the NFL. And, oh, by the way, I do think that matters. Lyle played 3 seasons at LSU at left tackle and probably in high school as well, if I had to guess. And I do that many years of doing it over and over again, I feel like you don't lose it. He even said when they moved him to guard at practice when he first came back, he was like, yeah, I played on the left side my whole life. It's ingrained in me. Mm-hmm. So I feel like he might have handled it better, but there's no way to know 100% for sure.
Well, first thing I want to do is figure out what's going on with Tyron Smith. Do you need surgery? If he needs surgery, I would do it. I would have done it yesterday. I mean, clean out the bones.
Do whatever it is you got to do. Yeah,
and he is needed down the stretch. You're gonna have to fight through this thing. You got not lucky, but I mean, they didn't really lose much in the division. I mean, the Giants won, but they jumped in there. I mean that was kind of big because if Philadelphia would have beaten the Chargers, they're starting to kind of back into
that would have been way
more huge in my opinion.
Yeah, so they're 3.5 game lead and all that, but I would get I'd figure that out with the left tackle spot with him, but I would have moved Lyle. I think Lyle should be moved over to left tackle. I mean, Terrence Steele said it himself. I mean, I asked him about it. He said, I would say it was a little harder than I thought it would be moving to left. They have a good defense, good defensive ends, and they were giving me a challenge. And they traded Von Miller. I mean, can you imagine what would have happened there? Now he didn't play in the Rams. I don't know. Would he have played?
He's got an ankle,
So maybe he wouldn't have played either way.
Maybe.
I don't know. But, he's been doing good on the right side. Just probably.
So I'm watching the game. Things start happening. I'm like, good. That's what you get. Because you stand...
That's my Amber. I've been waiting for you to show up.
You stand up there during press conferences and talk about how important continuity is in the O-line. And then you want to make that change. And we saw how he was last year. We see a guy that's been doing well this year. Why mess it up? Why talk about keeping it consistent and not making as many moves as, you don't need that. You got a guy like Lyle, who's a veteran guy, who has the experience. Yes, everything that Dave said, absolutely. But at the same time, I do trust Lyle to be better at that spot than you having to have Lyle back, then move Terrence Steele to the other side. There's no need for that. And if there is, then just say it. Don't be talking about keeping it consistent during the whole week and last week too. So when I watched it, yes, it sucked for the Cowboys, but oh my God, that's what you got.
What's funny is we always talk about, just move Zach Martin out there. Just move Zach Martin out to right tackle if you need to, But, no one says he hasn't done that since college and all that. So, and that's from guard to tackle. So, but, yeah, because he's Zach Martin and everyone thinks he's great and he could do it, and he has. So that's why it's like, well, if he can do that, then I think Lyle could move over to the left side. But if he's not willing to do that for whatever the reason, then I think you need to open this up and maybe think Ty Nseki's a better option here. He might be a better option than Terrence Steele.
I just wonder now if are they kind of having these sort of panicky conversations as well, or do you just stay the course? Like, you're only, again, kind of going back to last year, like you're only going to get better doing it more. So
I hope not. I hope they don't panic with anything. Like, that's the kind of game where you can overdo it. Like, you can come out of that game and start thinking, oh, do we need to do this?
So that's what I'm saying.
I think this is the kind of game where you say, okay, let's all take a breath.
Okay.
We didn't play our best football. There might be some tweaks you might need to make, but I wouldn't make any kind of major declarations coming out of that.
I just thought of something too. And they know more about what the timetable is for Tyron Smith. But let's say that they didn't do that. Let's say that they kept Steele on the right side and they put Lyle over there on the left side. And what Tyron comes back in next week, 2 weeks? We don't know. Then what are you doing? Now you got to make the same decision again. Now now Terrence Steele's played 7 great games on the right side. Now you're moving him over maybe they looked at this like, we know Tyron's coming back in a couple, and Lyle's going to be our right tackle. Let's get him in here, and now Terrence Steele will be the swing tackle. This may be open. Maybe it means that Tyron Smith's not too far down the road here.
Right, and let's go ahead.
Just McCarthy said he doesn't see it as a long-term issue. McCarthy lies to us all the time, but that I can only go off of what he says, and I haven't heard anything privately that contradicts that. And so I don't know if that means he plays against Atlanta, but I would imagine the team doesn't think he's that far away.
I hope people know what you mean when you say that. Like, would you say that about McCarthy?
What, that he lies to us?
He's playing the game that you play.
If you follow the NFL closely enough to be listening to our podcast, you know that coaches lie about him, and they should. I get it. I don't expect him to.
That's what I'm saying. I hope, because there's more to it than just like.
I will say Garrett just kind of hid everything behind this vague cloud, and
it's called a smile.
I mean, fair. McCarthy's a little more willing to just directly tell you soming that's the opposite.
I don't want to tell you
the case. Yeah, and that's, again, I don't blame him. I get it,
right?
But I don't trust what he says as much as I might trust somebody else. But that's okay.
Yeah, and I think the thing also to consider here that we haven't really discussed is the fact that Terrence Steele is supposed to be your swing tackle. So if he's supposed to be your swing tackle, that means he should be able to pop between the two. That doesn't mean he's going to do it well, But that doesn't mean that's the role. That's what they think he is a swing tackle for them. And so maybe what we're finding out is he's a pretty good right tackle. And that's it. It's a period after that. There is no, maybe he's not a swing tackle. Maybe he's just a pretty good right tackle.
They haven't had to deal with this yet, but if Tyron does come back, they might have to look at this and go, we might need to keep 4 tackles active.
Yeah.
That's something, maybe a right side guy, a left side guy.
Maybe he and Lyle, they're just right tackles. And maybe Nseki's your best left tackle if Tyron's not there.
That's not ideal at all. But then also that's where Lyle's versatility to play some guard could help as well.
I just want to say, and all of this is warranted, it's easy to beat up on the tackles because that's where they did the shuffling. The whole line kind of got bullied. I don't remember. I'd have to go back.
Zach was running for his life a lot.
Zach Martin got the better of him at least twice. I just remember a couple plays where they ran like a game and Zach is kind of catching up to get back in front of the guy. And if you remember, I was like, well, Dak's calf is fine because he's had to bail and loop out of the pocket at least 3 times in this game.
It seemed like all throughout that game, was, especially in the second half, it seemed like they were coming.
I mean, he just was a beating across the depth chart. Name your spot. They got
I didn't
whooped.
See any limping. He looked pretty normal from that standpoint. The passes were off, though.
Let's take a break. When we come back, I do want to talk a little bit more about that because I do wonder, and this is one of the questions that me and my wife were talking about last night as we were talking about this game, is how much did the fact that not only was Dak coming back after being off a few weeks, most of the receivers were hurt last week, so he didn't get a lot of practice time with them. How much did that affect the Cowboys' ability to be on last night, which they weren't on? I wonder how much that had played into that. We'll talk about that when we come right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Hi, I'm Clint Tillison with...
And I'm Jay Novacek, and we're both with...
United Ag and Turf, the official tractor provider of the Dallas Cowboys.
So, if you need a tractor to bale some hay, a mower to cut some grass, or a gator to get some chores done...
Get a John Deere at United Ag and Turf.
And then, let's get to work.
Hey, Jay, that's my line.
Well, not today.
Get to work with a John Deere tractor package that's just right for you and your budget. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com.
Honey, big news.
Gary, are you okay?
Oh, I'm not Gary anymore. I'm Jackie Flash.
What?
See, I want the latest smartphone, but the best deals are only for new customers. So, to get a new customer deal, I changed my name to Jackie Flash.
Okay, but the best smartphone deals at AT&T are for everyone, new and existing customers.
That's huge. Then guess who's getting a deal?
Is it Jackie Flash?
Jackie Flash.
It's not complicated. At AT&T, our best smartphone deals are for everyone. Restrictions apply. Visit att.com for details.
New Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. You deserve it.
I do deserve that.
You deserve decadent flavor without sugar. And a day at the beach without sand getting everywhere. And a relaxing bath that your children don't interrupt.
I deserve all that?
It's really just a visual metaphor for Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. Everything you want, nothing you don't.
A visual metaphor on the radio. I do deserve that.
Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. The zero you deserve is finally here.
Before there was a draft, you could size up a cowboy by 3 simple factors: the crease in his hat, the bend of his brim, and his unbending attitude. A man's Stetson didn't just protect him from what life threw at him, it projected a rugged, unstoppable spirit. Stetson hats are still American-made with pride right here in Texas. They're still the unofficial crown of all self-respecting cowboys, and Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find a retailer nearest you at stetson.com/cowboys.
Back to the break.
Registration for holiday youth camps is now open. Don't miss the Cowboys Football Academy and the Dallas Cowboys Cheerleader Dance Academy camps on December 21st at the Star, December 22nd at AT&T Stadium. Space is limited, so register at dallascowboys.com/academy.
Welcome back. Final segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. We're talking about the beatdown. Cowboys lose 30-16. Dak Prescott yesterday was 19 of 39, 49% completion rate. Not good at all. 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. My question for you guys is, how much do you think that Dak being out for as long as he was, plus the fact that last week when he's coming back and able to practice fully, he doesn't have most of his receivers because they were also injured. And I think CD may have practiced Saturday, but most of the week they were not practicing. How much do you think all of that combined was what we saw yesterday, that they just weren't on, you have one guy that's out of practice, they can jump back in and just kind of pick up where they left off. when you have that much change, how much do you think that was the factor?
I'm sure it did, and also you throw in the factor that the timing was messed up with, there was a lot more pressure than we've seen before, obviously with Tyron now. So I think you factor all of that in. It just looked like they were out of sync, and they were the whole game. They just couldn't ever get on track. Nobody was getting on track at the same time. When Dak was hitting his guys, they were dropping it. When they were open, he was missing throws he normally doesn't miss. It just wasn't. Just all together, they just were not on the same page. And Dak made sure in those quotes, he made sure to mention that a couple of times, which I don't blame him for that. He was like, he said, I wasn't hitting some throws. We weren't passing and catching like we normally do.
Yeah.
And it was
all of it.
It was all of it.
It was all of it.
It wasn't just him. It was the other guys.
There's more than enough blame to go around. It's the same thing I said about not playing with an edge. Like, football players don't just want to be like, yeah, we were off. They're gonna go back and forth and kind of talk out the side of their mouth, and then eventually they'll say it. And same CD, he was just like, it was weird, man. I don't know what happened. But then he gets more into it, and he says, timing is everything. Don't get me wrong. And throughout the week we didn't get, I do feel like that played a part in it slightly. Then he goes on to say, but at the end of the day, we're out here doing what we love. We still have timing. We just weren't in a groove today. Yes, obviously that's part of it. It's also the epitome of excuse making. I mean, we can't sit here and glow about the Dak yard and how many reps these guys have taken and how seriously they take it. And then I'm just like, well, they didn't get a week of practice. No wonder they sucked. It's like, no.
Yeah, but I do think there's something to that from the standpoint that
of course.
we talk about it all the time when teams are rolling and then they get a bye. And then they come back and you're like, how much will just that week of not being in the normal motion of what they're doing affect them,
To quote Mike Tomlin, we do not care.
Absolutely. We can talk about it.
Go play pro football.
They shouldn't care about it.
Well, yeah. I don't care either.
Okay.
It's an excuse. Be better. You're the CD Lamb. How did the league let him fall to 17? Dak Prescott, $40 million player. Like, you still, yes, there are reasons why these things happen. I don't care. Play better.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to.
Right, but I think that the point here is, and what we're trying to figure out is that is that what it is? I mean, is there a reason for it? It's not an excuse. It's just like, okay, there's a lot of things that are happening here. Is this going to be a trend towards Atlanta, the Raiders?
That's when you say big picture. That's we're getting into the weeds on everything that went wrong. But that's why I'm not overly concerned, because no, I don't think these are trends. We've got what was that? The 8th game? We've got 7 games of evidence that suggest that that's not the case.
Right.
So we have not.
Right now, this is the aberration.
Right.
Yeah. Right now.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's what he's trying to do. Like, I think you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. You're not meaning to, but you're like, but what we're trying to figure out is this, and you're not even worried. You're the one that says you're not worried about this because you think something's happened this week or something happened that is not the normal Cowboys, and that's what we're trying to figure out. Was it practice? Was it sync? Was it Dak out 3 weeks? Was it, you know what I mean? Like,
was it a little bit of everything?
Of course.
Yeah.
No, and I mean, that's what you do in these shows. You recap what happened, and I absolutely think that not having the practice time, Dak misses 3 weeks, only gets to practice 2 days, doesn't have his preferred receivers, Amari's limited, CD hurts his ankle in practice. All that plays into it. Yeah, I do think that's why. Number one, I don't care, and number two, there's enough evidence from the rest of the season that I don't worry that it's a trend.
Yeah, I think everyone's hoping that there's something. There's something that's not normal and all that.
You're right. It's kind of hoping. It's like whatever we've seen, we're hoping that this week was just different because of this or this or this, but that's not going to be what normally happens.
But I do. Sorry, go ahead.
There's evidence in all great football teams, Super Bowl winning teams, some with the Cowboys, some with other teams. There's always, I'll never forget that 94 49ers team that was really good. When Dion was on and all that, they won. They lost 40-8 to the Eagles, like in Week 4, and the Eagles were like 5-win team. I mean, sometimes it just happens. You just put up a stinker like that.
Back at the beginning of the season, the Packers got completely destroyed at the beginning of the season against New Orleans, and we were all thinking, well, maybe New Orleans is going to be great.
What
maybe the Packers
are
the
the Saints? Figure them out for me. Yeah. I could probably go get that Rubik's Cube off Kevin's desk over there and figure that out before I figured out the Saints.
It feels crazy.
My wonderful producer, our wonderful producer, Caden Gates, we're going to use this because, he produces most of the stuff I do. That's why.
As he produces everybody else's stuff too.
He's my producer.
He's
whatever.
your guy.
He's a man of the people.
He's your guy.
The 13 Seahawks and the 19 Chiefs are pretty much the only Super Bowl winners in modern memory who didn't get their asses absolutely kicked at least once.
Really?
Yes. Buccaneers lost 38-3 to the Saints last year. Patriots in 18 lost 26-10 to the Detroit Lions. 17 Eagles lost 24-10 to the Seahawks. 16 Pats got shut out by the Bills. It goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, you're right. I guess I was kind of talking out of the side of my mouth a little bit, but you get on this roll, you win 6 straight games, everything's beautiful, and this is going to happen all the time. And then you have a bad day, and everybody's like, see, they're frauds. I told you. And I think it's really just a defense mechanism because you don't want to get hurt.
Yeah.
But guess what? You signed up for this ride. You're on it now, man. We're going.
That's exactly. My best friend hit me yesterday. He was like, "Man, see, this is what I was fearing." I'm like, "Well, let's just slow down a bit." It was like, this is one game, and I don't think it necessarily right now is an indication of what they're going to be the rest of the season or what they've been at this point. They had a bad day. It happens in the NFL, right? It just happens.
The Falcons will not be sneaking up on anybody in this game, and that's the thing. I mean, they won. They won a game. They're playing okay, and they've got a quarterback that's won an MVP in the past, and I don't know who the receivers are, but I'm just saying they're Dan Quinn will make sure that things are ready to go. Anytime you get fired by somebody, like
got a little something for him.
Which I agree with everything you just said, but it's something I've been talking about with fans too, is the idea that this is a trap game. And I say, I don't believe in that at all in the NFL. I don't think that's a thing. And somebody just tweeted at me and were like,
what do they mean by that?
And that's what I was getting into, is somebody was like, well, you just defined a trap game because the Cowboys didn't come with the necessary energy. I don't think that's the same thing. A trap game in college is like LSU sees Alabama on the horizon, and they're so much more talented than Mississippi State or whoever.
And
they're
usually
playing.
probably just came off a big game too,
Right.
and you got this one sandwich in between. It's like,
And what makes it a trap game is in college you have the talent to win a game like that. Where Oklahoma did it to Kansas a few weeks ago. If you follow college football, God, they played awful. Mm-hmm. And Kansas had a lead. I think they were up. I don't remember. Yeah. They were up in the second half.
Yeah.
And OU was just like, oh yeah, we've been at the top of the recruiting rankings for a decade. We're just gonna pull ourselves together, and we're going to win this game by double digits. We just are. When I say trap games don't exist in the NFL, my point is, even among unless it's a rare example of like the very best team and the very worst, the talent level's just not that far apart.
Yep.
And so if you don't bring it, you can lose to anybody. And I think Nick's exactly right. The Falcons aren't sneaking up on this team. The Falcons can still win that game. But what I am confident of is that the Cowboys won't just play that ridiculously poorly.
But
not a guarantee of a win.
But I do think maybe they weren't looking at something else. But I think the trap in this case, I think it was this one. The Broncos game was a trap game from the standpoint of kind of what we had said before about they were winning these games. They won with Cooper Rush on the road against the Vikings. They pulled out this game somehow against the Patriots. They were winning. They 8 weeks in a row now without a loss. And you just feel like kind of invincible. And surely with that coming back at home, we're going to roll this team. Opening kickoff, 50 yards. Watch this.
See, this is what we thought. Yeah, they are who we thought they were.
I absolutely think that was the case. Yeah. And maybe I'm just quibbling. When you say it's a trap, this could have happened against any team. Like, it's not because it was the Broncos or anything. If you don't come ready, The Jags beat the Bills yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, that
it happens in the NFL.
That is unbelievable.
Without scoring a touchdown.
That's wild.
Yeah, that offense, the Bills offense, which I think is up there with the best offense in the league.
I didn't watch that game, but I bet you it was something similar. The Bills, I think they lost going into their bye, and they were like, all right, we're gonna get right here today. Let's just bomb this thing away, and we'll all be cracking beers by the end of the third quarter. And that's just not the attitude you can have ever in the NFL.
And what was so interesting is that after the game, McCarthy said, we talked a lot this week about not eating the cheese. And there they were. Like, it's just, they had been talking about this. They had been talking about this, and really he'd been trying to coach them to not buy into the idea that you're as great as everybody says you are, but natural who we are as people, this kind of thing happens. It's why after a game like that, we get to see, was this an aberration? Because if it is, look out, Atlanta Falcons. You're probably going to take a nice spanking this weekend. If it's not, though, If it's not, though, and they still think, if they think too much that was an aberration, and they think, we'll kill them, then here we go. And now you start taking that slide, and then it becomes a situation, can you figure out how to flip that switch
And he
again?
just got Mahomes coming up after that.
Yeah, right. All right, we appreciate you guys joining us. We'll be back on tomorrow. We'll get into a little big picture around the NFL, see what's happening around some other teams in the NFC and in the NFC East. Till then, for Nick Eatman, Dave Hellman, Amber Garcia, I am Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?